What's up everybody, Hungry Cat here, and today I'm going to share with you the top 5 ways I physically train for thru hikes and long distance backpacking without actually hiking. If you're a busy person and looking for an efficient, high impact way to physically train for the trail, this video is for you. Now, I've seen a lot of videos and read a lot of articles about training and preparing for a thru hike. And the conclusion of most of these is that the best way to train for hiking and backpacking is, well to just get out there and actually do it. And it's totally true. But hey, most of us are really busy. We've got jobs, friends, families, commitments, and other hobbies and ways to spend our time. And we might not even live close to good hiking and backpacking destinations. If you're already going to allocate a large amount of time to spend thru hiking, you probably aren't going to have a lot of surplus time prior to that just to go on multi-day backpacking trips to get used to and conditioned for backpacking. The good news is, whether you're preparing for a major thru hike like all 2,000 plus miles of the Appalachian Trail or a much smaller undertaking, all of the techniques I'm about to share will help ensure that you complete your hike and enjoy the journey more, because you will be in trail ready shape, all without having to drive anywhere or do any overnight backpacking trips. Now, before we get into the meat and potatoes of this video, I just want to say that I am not a physical trainer, nor am I a doctor. I'm here to relay tips and tricks that worked really well for me, but it's up to you to decide if they will work for you and if they are safe for you. If there's any doubt in your mind, please do consult with a professional before you go about trying some of these exercises. With that said, let's dive right into physical training tip number 1. Walk with a weighted pack. Walking and running are two good ways to condition your legs and feet, though I specifically recommend walking with a weighted pack. I'm an avid runner, but I've learned that it doesn't always serve me well in terms of conditioning my legs in a way that will best prepare them for hiking. Take your pack and try and weigh it down to at least 5 to 10 pounds heavier than what you're going to carry on trail. I do this by throwing books and full water bottles inside of mine. And if this itself feels like an impossible task and just too heavy, then it's probably a sign that your base weight is going to be too heavy on trail, and you might want to start working on paring that down. If you're just getting started and don't have the ability to carry even a light pack yet, don't worry. Just focus on general fitness and basic strength training first, and just walk without a pack before attempting carrying any weight. When you walk with your pack, don't use trekking poles so you can keep all the strength training focus on your legs and core. Also, make sure you're wearing the shoes you're going to hike in, if possible. This is going to ensure that your feet get used to carrying the load in those specific shoes. And then lastly, hills are your friend. If you live in an area where you have access to hills, walk up and down them. The more you can simulate mountain conditions, the better your muscles will be equipped to handle them on trail. And if you're walking up hills, try to power yourself up with your glutes. I know it sounds a little funny, but squeeze your butt muscles while you propel yourself up to help build that lifting strength that you're going to need on the trail. You can tighten your abdominal muscles as well while you're doing these exercises and walking for some additional added core benefit. Make a pact with yourself that whenever you go for a walk, you will do it with your weighted pack. Add weight if that weight starts to feel too easy. By the time you get on trail, carrying your actual pack and weight load is going to feel like a breeze. This brings me to tip number 2, weighted pack lunges and squats. We're going to add lunges to your weighted pack walk. You can do these while on your walk, before your walk, or after when you're done. I generally just do them up and down my driveway. First, you're going to dip down on one knee, but don't touch the ground, and make sure you've got your pack on for this. Try not to pause long in between your lunges so that you can keep your muscles engaged. This is going to be hard. If it's too hard with your pack at first, take some weight out of the pack or just start without it. I promise that these lunges are going to really help you build strength for the tough climbs you're likely going to have to tackle later. So really try and challenge yourself here and don't skimp on the lunges. Remember, pain now is gain later. Similarly, with your pack still on, do some squats. Move your legs roughly shoulder width apart, keep your feet and heels flat on the ground, and then squat down with your back as straight as possible. I move my arms out in front of me as I squat down to maintain balance and to help keep my back flat. Like lunges, these are going to feel difficult at first. So remove some weight from your pack or take your pack off altogether if that's where you absolutely need to start. But push yourself hard for maximum benefit. Do them until you think you can't do any more, and then force out 5 more. That brings me now to tip number 3, wind sprints. Do you ever find yourself breathing deeply or notice that your heart is pounding while you're walking up a long, steep hill? Okay, so imagine doing that with your weighted pack. The more you can walk up hills with your pack, the better you're going to be equipped to deal with this on the trail. But if you really want to condition your lungs and heart for hiking, wind sprints are a great high-impact supplemental exercise you can do without your pack. The goal for this exercise is to expand lung capacity and increase cardio efficiency. Now, I'm an avid runner, and I can run quite long distances, which brings endurance. But it's plateaued endurance that's centered around a specific pace that I always run at. Hiking is full of climbing and elevation changes which consistently elevate me out of my comfortable cardio plateau. Wind sprints are an efficient way to help train for exceeding that comfort plateau when you're dealing with tough climbs on trail or hiking at higher elevations. Now, you can do wind sprints on the sidewalk, your driveway if it's long enough, or at a local park. You want the distance to be such that if you sprint with all of your power as hard as you can, that when you get to the end, you're breathing heavily. Do this. Sprint to the end as fast as you can, and then walk back to the beginning. Then, and this is key, without taking more than a 10-second rest, do it again. This is going to keep your heart up and make each incremental sprint much harder. You want to repeat this at least 4 times, but as many as you can possibly stomach. Really push yourself to go all out. In an ideal situation, you'll sprint up a hill and then walk back down. Not unlike lunges, this is going to suck, but your return on this investment is going to be a much more enjoyable hike. Do these regularly and increase the number of sprints and intensity over time as aggressively as your body will allow. If sprints are too difficult at first, then pare it back and just try and jog or walk as fast as you possibly can. As long as you can get yourself breathing hard and repeat the activity in rapid succession to keep your heart rate up, you'll be realizing the goal of the exercises and making incremental improvements. All right, tip number 4, core training. Whether your pack has a hip belt or not, a strong core is going to help prevent fatigue, improve your stability and posture, and help prevent injury during your hike. A lot of people glaze over core work a bit. It's natural to focus on building leg strength because you always think of legs when you think of hiking, right? But this is one area that can really help carrying a pack day in and day out be a much more comfortable experience. To work my core, I typically start with a variety of sit-ups. I use a cheap yoga mat for these exercises, and I will include a link in the video description in case you aren't sure what kind of mat you might want to get. I especially like extended leg lifts to work my full range of abdominal muscles, and then as it gets easier, you can add weight. My cat Lucy likes to join me for these mat sessions, and she was standing nearby, so I grabbed her for my extra weight. She gives me 6 added pounds of furry resistance. I also like to do planks, which will work your entire core, including your back. I generally add in traditional push-ups as well. This gives me more core training because they're similar to planks, plus the added benefit of strengthening my arms and shoulders, which will help minimize upper body fatigue on the trail, especially when you're doing something like hiking with trekking poles. Lastly, I find that lower back strengthening makes a huge difference in my ability to hike long days without getting as fatigued. To focus on my lower back, I keep it really simple and just lie face down on my mat and then lift my torso up off the mat while clasping my hands behind my back. I use my lower back muscles to lift my torso up. That's all I do, and I will do as many repetitions as it takes to feel the burn and continue to get stronger. All right, we've made it to the last tip. Tip number 5, weather and climate training. Weather can present both physical and mental challenges. I'm going to focus on the physical side of training in this video and probably do a separate video on mental training for thru-hikes. There is a lot to be said for making sure that you are physically prepared for any climate extremes or inclement weather you might face on your planned hike. For example, if your goal is a long hike on the Appalachian Trail, you should expect to get wet a lot. No rain jacket is going to keep you dry on the AT. Therefore, it is good to understand what it feels like to hike in a completely soaked out rain jacket. Are you warm enough? Too hot? What pace do you need to walk at to stay warm when you're completely soaked and hiking? When you're wet, your body temperature is going to drop. So being prepared for this feeling is very useful. To the extent possible, try to walk with your weighted pack in whatever weather or climate conditions you anticipate. Rain is probably the easiest one. you may have to get creative with some of the others. For example, heat. If you're preparing for a hot hike and you use air conditioning at home, maybe try cutting the AC off and open the windows instead so your body can get used to a warmer base temperature. If you have access to humid heat, but you're going to hike in the dry desert, try experimenting with being less hydrated when you train in the humid heat. Make a list of the challenging weather and climate conditions you're likely to face and try to find ways to simulate those in your training. Of course, safety always comes first. Don't do something if it will put you or anyone else in jeopardy, and take care not to overdo it. Okay folks, that wraps up my top 5 tips for training for a thru hike without actually hiking. All of these things can be done at home or walking out your front door, and if not, hopefully there's a park or somewhere nearby where you can get out for a weighted pack walk and a tasty helping of wind sprints and lunges. Remember, these tips are about training efficiency. I didn't say it was going to be easy. If you liked this video or got any value out of it, it would really mean the world to me if you would hit the like button, take just a second to share it with a friend, and subscribe to my channel. I sincerely do hope this helps you to optimize your own training and achieve your hiking goals. I have some great content coming soon, so once you're subscribed, be sure to hit that notification bell so you know when those videos are released. And until then, happy training and happy trails.